All right, joining us now is the lawyer, Jide Ologun. Jide, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year once again.
Nice to see you, really.
Thank you.
All right, now, health, ill health, we have seen this as the ground for a lot of application for bail sometimes where people standing trial, different degrees of trial, or various degrees of trial, always cite ill health to be granted bail to travel either abroad or at least whatever. We've seen all of that drama. Now, if we narrow it down to the case now, in fact, social media has been abuzz with former governor of Ekiti State. And I guess you saw the video, I guess you saw all the pictures. How do you interpret that?
When you talk about illness, I'm the person that said that they must be sick. If you look at the allegations involved in these matters, it's only sick people that will corner the resources of the nation to their greedy advantage. And I'm not surprised that we're talking about Fayose, who has always been dramatic. You recall that during the last election in Ekiti State, he claimed to be in pain, hung his hand, and was shouting.
But will you doubt him?
And eventually, within days, after the whole elections, the pain disappeared. And so he's always been dramatic. I think my concern is the criminal justice system value chain that we have in Nigeria, which is very, very porous. I can say that. And for example, for you to have an effective criminal justice system, there must be a thorough investigation, a diligent prosecution, a committed judiciary, all right? And here we are now. The allegations against Fayose is fraudulent, talking about billions of naira. I recall that when Obanikoro was the Minister of State of Defense, whatever, he allegedly got 4.7 billion naira from Dasuki, who has just been released right now, out of which about 1.3 was moved to Fayose for the elections in Ekiti and other allegations also. And recall also that in the case of Obanikoro, he fled the country when President Buhari came in as president, expecting that the fight against corruption was going to be effective. But when he monitored from there, he actually came back to the country, and I think he returned about 134 million naira to EFCC and promised to bring the remaining within the space of time. We know what the story is now. He's with the APC now. And the chairman of APC said, if you join our party, your sins are forgiven. So he's a saint now. And you saw the drama that even followed Fayose going to the EFCC. He was there with T-shirt that I'm here, EFCC.
He took his pillow.
Yeah, Governor Wike was there to receive him. Fani Kayode was there to receive him. And some of his fans who even wore T-shirts saying Fayose, the conscience of the nation. So you now need to ask the question, how serious are we about fighting corruption? And of course, in dancing salsa, maybe the doctor recommended I should dance salsa. But I can tell you also, if I know some of them so well, you can imagine the lifestyle they live while in office.
Right.
So it's still in the system. I just want to remind us again, in comparison, that in the UK, it was not the same for the former governor of Delta State, who escaped all the long arms of the law in Nigeria. He was picked up and jailed for 13 years in the UK for crime. So maybe we have not been able to identify what crime is and the impact on the society.
All right, the next issue now is the fact that the AFCC is asking the courts to take note. I wonder what your interpretation of this is and what we'll see will take place moving on from here.
To take note of what? You have granted somebody leave to travel out of the country, which on its own is an indictment. That means we don't have the health facilities to support Nigerians.
No,
so
but in the eyes of the law, if he has a doctor, he has a personal doctor, I believe he has the right to visit his personal doctor if the time for his checkup is due.
Why was the same was Dasuki not granted bail for whatever reasons, and he was not allowed to go? Don't let us rule out the issue of unnecessary manipulative influence on our criminal justice system. Look at the boldness with which Fayose approached EFCC. And I make bold to say that people don't fear the laws of Nigeria anymore. Crime is no big deal. All right? And of course, what are they noting? If a man says he is sick and he is healed within 2 days of crossing out of this country, I mean, what do you expect? Look at the case of El Zazaki, who was flown to India. The man got there and was almost healed immediately. He said, no, take me back to Nigeria because I feel endangered here. All right, so it's all about the system. Where there is a will, there is a way. Right. Even the Kalu that was recently jailed, at the time was allowed to fly out of the country. And one of the promises of this government is that government officials will lose this privilege of going abroad for medical treatment. But if our own president went to the UK for medical treatment, then what moral justification is on the table to prevent others? So we have a lot of issues to deal with. Right. But if we don't implement our laws and allow consequences and treat crime as a crime, and we bring in political sentiment, this country may remain in the doldrum. But I know that someday we will rise through the right leadership to prevail as a nation and begin to prosper and enjoy the prosperity.
All right. Thank you very much, Jide Logun, for your insight into this. We hope that maybe the therapy of salsa, the lady who is dancing with the former governor, I guess, is teaching him to, you know.
You can imagine how she will smile home, you know.
Well, joining us now is a lawyer, Jide Ologun. He'll be talking more on this. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, for a country that says it is fighting corruption, and we're seeing all of these cases, porosity in our processes, especially our criminal justice system, one wonders how sincere a fight against corruption really is if we are having incidences like this, because this is not even the first time.
Within the confines of the law, if you look at Section 36, Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, there is what we call the presumption of innocence. So even though you have been slammed with criminal charges, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty, and it has to be beyond all reasonable doubt. And that is where the prosecution comes in. And you know that the police will handle the prosecution. So, and if the prosecution is not thorough, how can you pronounce the accused guilty? So by and large, and that is why we say in respect of some offenses which his own allegations falls within, you are entitled to bail. And he got a bail, and he's been going to court, and the judge has even been changed, and the lawyer asked for him to go on medical treatment. And of course, constitutionally, he was entitled to that. So he said he was going for medical check. We didn't specify whether it was going to be chemotherapy or whatever. So perhaps lying down at the beach and watching the sun is I think, but my concern here is that we have not shown enough seriousness in fighting corruption. I recall a case in recent times when the former Comptroller General of Customs was to be prosecuted, and the Attorney General wrote a letter that the EFCC could not prosecute him because there's an agreement between him and the government to return some amount of money. I recall the case of Ladoja, the former governor of Oyo State, that the judge said that the prosecution failed. So, and I recall also that towards the 2015 election, the present regime promised to transform that burden of proof on the prosecution to the accused. Because it would have been a different ballgame. So if you are the one accusing, you must prove the case. So here we are now. And for Fayose asking his haters to hug transformer, I think it even goes beyond do your worst. It means go and die. Because who will hug a transformer?
And leave.
And be alive. Except maybe in Nigeria where we may not have power supply. You see, so, and these are issues of the psychological mindset of our so-called leaders. And you read him making reference to they. They are disconnected from the system. But if we allow this to continue, who are we to blame? The government is empowered to fight corruption.
But in the eyes of the law, Jide, at least you will enlighten us better. in the eyes of the law, when you are standing trial, do you have the luxury to be granted bail and go for a medical check? Not treatment, medical check. Because from the tweet, he said, well, I went for medical check. I wasn't on admission.
It is at the discretion of the judge.
Okay.
All right? And that is why all this that we are watching is embarrassing, perhaps, to the civilized societies. For us, are we not used to it? Have we not seen a senator who climbed the trees and claimed, so it's different kinds of drama. We've seen people wheeled to the court on stretchers, different kinds of pretenses. But if the law is serious enough, all these things will happen. I like making reference to what happened in the UK in respect of a former governor of Delta State, Ibori. The court jailed him for 13 years for crimes. And some Nigerians moved in to persuade the court that he built Olympic-sized stadium. And the judge said her business was not to assess his performance in office, but to jail him for specific crime.
Is the law not serious enough, or is implementation a challenge?
From what we have seen, many have gone away with crimes that they shouldn't get away with in the country. And again, there was a time also we celebrated the fact that Nglari was jailed. But at the appellate level, he was released. We even read recently about how the correctional system, they aid further crime. Because when you talk about the criminal justice value chain, the correctional system is there also. So
absolutely.
What I'm saying is that if you don't run the society in a way that the people have a level of fear for the laws of the land, and anything goes. So what sometimes they do is just that, okay, if you are going to commit this crime, make it so big that you can find your way through. But I have not ruled out the fact that if Fayose returns to Nigeria, he may still go to jail if eventually he is found guilty.
All right.
Like the former governor of Abia State, or Jules Okali.
We have to leave it here now. Jide Ologun, thank you so much for your insight into this.
God bless Nigeria.
Yeah.
Well, joining us now is a lawyer, Jide Ologun. Thank you for joining us on TVC
Glad
Breakfast.
to have you join us.
You're welcome.
All right. Several reactions have trailed this issue, especially on social media. Some have said that it is a slap to the face of Nigerians and all of that. And from certain statements that has been made on this program, it has been said that there is a porosity in our justice system, and we haven't been able to make crime seem to be crime, in speaking, so to speak. But what would it take to treat crime as a crime and make people afraid, if that's the word to be used here, of the law in what we are seeing now?
Allow the consequences to roll. But before you get to consequences, you must first conclude the matter. And that is at the discretion of the court also. Because like I said, when you talk about the criminal justice value chain, you need a thorough investigation. In the case of Fayose, the EFCC started investigating him when he was still a governor, even though he had the immunity from prosecution at that point in time. So they had to warehouse their evidence and things like that. And he promised to show up on the 16th of October, 2018, and he showed up to them. So he was arraigned in the court. He was granted bail. The prosecution is on. But how effective it is, I don't know, because a lot of people have come to give evidence. There was even a time he was alleged to have threatened one of the principal witnesses. And the matter got transferred to another court, and that was where he got the permission to have his passport released to him to go on medical check. And you would have expected that the court should have been persuaded that he actually needed a medical check that could not be provided in Nigeria, that must be abroad. And his passport was released to him. He has gone for the medical check, not medical attention. Maybe the doctor has certified him to be healthy enough to go and enjoy the sunshine at the beach.
and go for the salsa dance, because salsa dance is not an easy one.
So in some ways, in some ways, invariably, you're saying that in some ways we are encouraging some of these things we are seeing because our system is not functional, especially in terms of our hospitals.
That's my personal opinion. If you read section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution as amended, it says that the government must abolish corruption and abuse of office. All right, and when you have that mandate, these allegations should not be treated lightly, particularly when we look at the negative impact on the society, the level of crime we have, the paucity of infrastructure, the poverty that is ravaging the land. Because, again, the Constitution says in section 16 that wealth should not be concentrated in the hands of few. But I'm still saying this within the context of the fact that these allegations and Fayose is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So, and the president himself said recently that the wealth of Nigeria is probably in the hands of 5. And the president himself said recently that the wealth of Nigeria is probably in the hands of 5. So when you have that imbalance, it's affecting the country. Look at the number of the population of children out of school. Look at the fact that we are 200 million people and about half of that population falls within the poverty bracket. Look at the fact that we must go borrowing, and some are alleged to have, embezzled this money one way or the other. We are talking of over 5 billion naira in this case. It's also connected to the Dasuki, the money that could have been spent on ammunition, and there's a suspicion right now that the insurgents are probably better equipped than military apparatus. So we need to balance all these
All
things.
right. Now, in what circumstance or in what cases is it, because okay, let me put it this way. When someone alleges that he needs medical attention, and the person, of course, he has the right to medical checkup and all of that, so long as the court has not found you guilty of anything, you're presumed innocent. In what circumstance does the court or does the authority reserve the right to use their own medical facility to also check you to ascertain the fact or the truthfulness of your claim?
It's at the discretion of the court. The court has to verify documents, like I said. But look at the case of Oji Uzokalu, who has been convicted of the crime, guilty. And he told the court to release him on bail so that he can go to consult his herbalist. The court did not grant that. So it's at the discretion of the court. But we are not even talking mainly about the medical aspect of it, but the fact that his passport was released to him. In the case of Yakubu Andrew, the former GMD of NNPC, money found in houses in Kaduna, with prima facie case of crime. He also had his passport released to him for medical check, even though the court said he has case to answer. So I think we need to get serious by making people realize that if you go into crime, you'll be punished for crime.
All right.
And we must be diligent about it. In the absence of that, we may be nurturing crime. And under industrial psychology, you have what you call reinforcement theory. And that is why some are not deterred from going into crime. And we need to just stop
We're
crime
not
in our
laying
society.
the right precedences. All right. Thank you very much, Jide Logun, for coming on the program.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you.